This is the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Dory Stewart.
Welcome back to another episode of the FXBG Neighbors Podcast, where we share the stories of our favorite local brands. I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today. We've got Elaine Crocker joining us, and she is with Yet Stand Inc. Elaine, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to dive in and learn more about you and this organization. So let's start there. Share with us, what is Yet Stand?
Okay, so Yet Stand, it's a nonprofit here in Fredericksburg that I founded in March of 2022. And we focus on mental health, emotional health, and it's really informing and raising awareness. So we find that a lot of people are just not really aware of kind of their day-to-day mental and emotional health. Like, what's going on? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? How am I, maybe I'm irritable. Why? I'm stressed. What do I do? I'm feeling overwhelmed, just kind of your day-to-day stuff. And so it's helping people to take the time to pause and to reflect and to think about where they are and what might be going on. And then it's also providing tools and resources so that in any moment you can just stop and just, sometimes you might want to just stop and remind yourself, okay, breathe. And that just brings your blood pressure down, your heart rate down, and it helps to kind of even you out. So you can think clearer. And so that's what we do. We go into the schools. We do have a partnership agreement with Stafford County schools. And so we go into the schools, and primarily we've been focusing on the high schools, but we are looking to get into the lower grades, the middle, even the elementary. It really, a lot of that, I think, we think should start as early as possible, and so we go into the schools and we do what we call power chats. And power being, there's knowledge and power. I really do believe that when you know better, you do better, think better, act better, all those things. And then chat, because it's very interactive. The workshops are very interactive. Everybody's talking, everybody's asking questions. And, we do role plays and various activities to help the kids to understand, the different topics that we're speaking on. And then we do community workshops. So we actually have something coming up in October. We're going to focus around music and spoken word and how healing and how reflective and calming and all those things that writing and music can be. So we're going to hold a community event in October. And so, yeah, that's what we do. Like I said, it's about providing information and raising awareness.
I love this so much, and it's something that is so needed in our community. So thank you for creating this, and the fact that you are partnered with the schools and bringing it directly to our students.
Yeah.
I know that was not an easy thing to do. I imagine you've worked very hard to get to this point. So tell me, I want to learn about you, and I want to learn about how you got this organization going.
Okay. So it really started, a lot of times organizations like this start out of our own experiences, whether it's, painful experiences or whatever, but usually that's kind of how we start these kinds of things, which was my case. So I started the organization, as a child. I experienced a lot of different things, traumatic type of experiences, sexual assault and, bullying and things like that. And we didn't have resources. We didn't have tools. There were no conversations. Like I can't even remember the first time I even heard mental health. I was well into my adulthood before I even heard, those words. And so, I didn't know what to do with what was going on with me, what I was feeling, what I was thinking. So I acted out got into a lot of trouble. I experienced drug addiction for many years and things like that, just trying to cope, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I got to the point where, I wanted to better myself, better my life, that's when I started learning. And by then I was well into my 20s.
Mm.
I wanted to figure out like what to do. How can I live life better? Like
Yeah.
there's got to be different. There's got to be better ways of coping, and
Mm-hmm.
so I went into therapy and to drug rehab and to self-help books and just
Mm-hmm.
anything I could find, that could help me to understand myself,
Mm-hmm.
and my
Yeah.
whys and who I am and those kinds of things. And so I've learned a lot through that. I've done a lot of various trainings, in trauma and crisis and sexual assault and domestic violence and all kinds of trainings I've done. I've worked in group homes for women who were
Mm-hmm.
drug addicted and coming out of jail and prison, and all of those things. I learned a lot. And so with this organization, it was okay. Now that I know all these things,
Mm-hmm.
um, I felt like, pass it on, especially
Yeah.
when I can clearly see so many youth going through the things that I went through, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, yes, now that I know these things, pass it on and help others, and hopefully help somebody not to kind of struggle and the way that I did, or even if they are, giving them tools and resources how they can get out, because you can, if you do the work, you have the
Mm-hmm.
information and you use the tools and the resources, you can get out, you can do better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're such a gift to our community that
Thank
you
you.
have created this and that you're doing so much. It's impressive. Congratulations
Thank you.
on your success.
Thank you.
It's I know that it's a lot of hard work, and I'd love to learn, how can the community who's listening right now and thinking, they also love your mission, how can they help you? How can they support you?
Yeah. Well, of course, one of the ways is always donations,
Mm-hmm.
and that could be through our Cash App, which is Yet Stand Inc. Um, and then attend, if we're doing a community workshop, come out, attend,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even, I'm sure others have stories that they can share, that
Mm-hmm.
would help somebody to come to the workshop, share. And we even, when we go into the schools, sometimes we take people in with us that have kind of like that comeback story from youth to issues to where they are now in adulthood, and we take
Mm-hmm.
them in and they tell their story to the youth
Yeah.
in the schools. So those are some of the ways that they could help.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. If someone listening is inspired and has been thinking about starting a nonprofit, what advice would you give them?
What advice would I give? Definitely be ready,
Mm-hmm.
because, and I say that because I wanted to start the nonprofit some years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but there were just aspects in my life and things where I really wasn't ready, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so then when I reached that place where it's like I knew, okay, I'm ready, I can take this on, so definitely
Yeah.
be ready, have a
Mm-hmm.
clear vision, a clear purpose, for what it
Mm-hmm.
is that you want to do. What is the issue or the issues that you want to tackle,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Be very clear on that, but also know that it can shift, because ours shifted somewhat. Because when I first started the organization, we were focusing on sexual assault because that was the
Mm-hmm.
primary, trauma that I had experienced. But then, like I said, as we were talking to people, I started realizing, it's really more of a mental health issue now, because what happened happened. the
Right.
behaviors and the thoughts and all the things that the effects, the after effects, that really has more to do with your mental health and your emotional health. And so that's why we kind of switched it and really kind of honed in on those areas. So, be willing, and ready to maybe make some shifts. And take your time to ensure that you understand the compliance issues, you understand, the IRS regulations, maybe you have a lawyer, just, and be very careful as you're filling out the paperwork and that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's really good advice. It's a lot more involved than most people think.
Yeah. There's definitely, especially the compliance, like there's regular reports throughout the year, that we have to do. And then if you're getting funding from, like government funding or that kind of, that's, a whole nother kind of reporting, and you have to make sure your records are intact and are straight,
Yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you for that. So is there something that you wish the listeners knew about Yet Stand, maybe that we haven't talked about yet?
Let's see. The only thing I can really think of is that the board of directors for Yet Stand are very active. They're not just like sitting board members. They're very active. And so I have a woman who is a counselor. So she is a mental health counselor. And even though we're not counseling, but we do have that expertise of a counselor, on the board. And then we also have a lady who she's a life coach, and she's training and development guru, and so we have that kind of expertise behind us in terms of creating our curriculums and and things like that. So have a nice little professional board.
Nice. Having
and that would be the other thing, if someone in the community was interested in being on the board. We would be willing to talk to people and, see how we could make that work.
Nice. Having a strong team behind you is really important.
Yeah. That would be the other piece of advice. Yeah. Have a strong team who gets your vision, who can fill in strengths where maybe you don't have that strength, and, really, really work to build a good, solid team.
Nice. If the listeners want to learn more from you, if they want to connect with you, if they want to, be part of the board, anything like that, how can they reach you?
Okay, so they can email us at yetstand@gmail.com. They can also go to our website to learn more about what we do and what we have done, and that is yetstand.org. That's our website. So they can go there, like I said, and see what we've done in the past, and learn more about our mission and vision and that sort of thing. And if they want to be a board member, that would be a good place to start to see, if they feel they would fit in.
Perfect. Well, Elaine, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast and sharing Yet Stand with us. And congratulations again on your success.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to fxbgneighborspodcast.com.